Parvati Bhagini, I think you're self-muted. You can chant the Dhyana Shloka.
Okay. ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनम् देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधना बोधितम् लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरहः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद् भारत पंकजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसि न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। हरि ओम।
Hari Om. सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ परं वरिष्ठं ब्रह्मिष्ठं परमानन्दरूपिणं परमार्थनन्दयतिं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। अथ दशमोऽध्यायः। We completed the 9th chapter of the Gita in the last class, and we also had the summary, and we'll be entering the 10th chapter today. And we should remember that chapters 9, 10, etc. fall in the middle section of the Gita. So the first 6 chapters come under the first section or Prathama Shatkam. Okay. So from the 7th up to the 12th is called the Madhyama Shatkam, or the middle section, and from 13th to 18th is the Charama Shatkam, or the final section. So in the first 6 chapters, Lord Krishna focuses on Jiva Swarupam, right? The nature of the individual. In the middle section, from the 7th to 12th, Lord Krishna is focusing on Ishvara Swarupam. And in the final section, Lord Krishna will focus on Ishvara Jiva Swarupa Aikyam, the essential oneness of the Jivatma and Paramatma. So therefore, the middle section focuses on God or Ishvara, which is the central theme of all religions, right? Because religion itself means God-centric, right? So naturally, we have to know the nature of God that Lord Krishna has been discussing from the 7th chapter. And this discussion is gradually progressing, culminating in the 12th chapter. Okay, a very beautiful chapter. So in the previous chapters, especially in the 7th and 9th, Lord Krishna defined Ishvara as Jagat Karanam, the cause of the universe. So Ishvara consists of what? 2 components, Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti. One is the consciousness or changeless principle. Another is the matter or changing principle. So the changeless consciousness and the changing matter put together is Ishvara, and that Ishvara alone has evolved into this universe. Therefore, Lord Krishna wants to point out that the entire universe is the manifestation of Ishvara. Right? So that is what Krishna wants to deal with. So in the creation, wherever you experience changing features, right, they all belong to Apara Prakriti of the Ishvara. All the Shabda, right, changing sounds we experience, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, right. In scientific language, matter and all its modifications, energy and its modifications, all that is continuously changing is Apara Prakriti, right. So even if you take our body mind, it is changing so much, right? The cells are, there are so many cells which are dying, there are so many cells that are coming up new. So the entire, the Jadatattvam of the body keeps changing so many times during our lifetime itself. Our mind is also violently changing, often disturbingly changing, right? All of this will come under Apara Prakriti of Ishvara. So in fact, whatever we experience is the Apara Prakriti. So there is only one changeless principle which we are not focusing, right? But which we will focus later, right? In and through all of these changing principles, there is a changeless principle, which is the consciousness principle, which is actually aware of the changes, right? So that which is the witness of all the changes, right? The self, which remains changeless, right? That is called the Para Prakriti, the Chaitanyam. So Lord Krishna does not focus on that now, but he is focusing on apara prakriti aspect of the Lord. So gradually he wants to train our mind to appreciate the entire universe as an expression of the Lord. Right? So which Lord Krishna calls Vishwarupa Ishvara Darshanam. So this Ishvara Darshanam is extremely important for spiritual growth. Right? So unless we train and until we train our mind to appreciate the Vishwarupa Ishvara, until then we give a finite form to the Lord, until we are able to graduate to that level, right? So a finite form God, right, which we as spiritual students should not be too much interested in as we start graduating, right? So we are using only the finite God as a stepping stone, which we call as Ekarupa Ishvara. God as a person who is seated in a particular loka beyond the cloud. We imagine, right? As children, we are also taught to imagine that and we are encouraged to imagine that, right? So the God having a peculiar form, God coming, going, etc., right? So the concept of God. Okay. So the concept of God itself is that of a personal God, a person who is sitting somewhere, right? And then the point is, Lord Krishna himself does not want us to get attached to this formed one person, single person kind of God, right? So what happens is all the time the devotees are interested in Ishvara Darshanam, right, in which Bhagavan will come, smile, have a dialogue, etc., right? So the concept of this finite coming, going God is highlighted so much in the Puranas. We should respect the Puranas, they are required, right? But we need to step gradually away from that, right? If you are a spiritual seeker of moksha, then we have to gradually change the idea of the God from one finite coming, going Lord to a changeless kind of changeless Ishvara, right? So we have to first learn to move from the finite God to Vishwarupa God, right? So the gradual change happens in the form of first Pancha Bhutatmakam, Akashalingam, right? Vayulingam, Agnilingam, etc. Right? That is why we have the Panchabhuta Sthalam also, so that the shift can happen gradually. Though there is a temple, if you go to Chidambaram Nataraja temple and see, Akasha Tattvam is present as space. So you will actually not see anything, but that is God, right? You are taught that you have to move to Akasha. Imagine that God is Akasha, right? So if you are a spiritual seeker of moksha, we need to move here, right? Not only Pancha Bhutas, but Pancha Bhautika Prapancha, even the world, right? Everything we should learn to see as God. But what happens is the prime obstacle is our strong ahankara and mamakara, because of which we have strong raga and dvesha. So ahankara and mamakara, raga dvesha are obstacles to Vishwarupa Darshanam. So Lord Krishna wants us to understand Vishwarupa Ishvara and gradually reduce ahankara and mamakara and then enjoy Ishvara Darshanam everywhere, right? So in Tamil, actually they say பார்க்கும் இடம் எல்லாம், right? You just see Ishvara everywhere, right? Wherever you turn, wherever you see Ishvara, right? But this has to be intellectually understood, and first step is understanding, and then imbibing this and seeing it in everyday life, right? So whatever good happens, that is Ishvara. Whatever bad happens is also Ishvara. So birth is Ishvara, death is Ishvara, arrival is Ishvara, departure is Ishvara, youth and health are Ishvara, old and disease are also Ishvara. So Sarvam Ishvaramayam Jagat is the intermediary step. This is not the final step. This is the intermediary spiritual step. After that, we have to go to Nirguna Ishvara, the Chaitanyam. So now Lord Krishna is focusing on Vishwarupa Ishvara Darshanam, without which Nirguna Brahma Jnanam is impossible. And even if we get that Jnanam, it will be only academic information. So if Aham Brahmasmi Jnanam should work for me, it should come, and if it needs to, work and be there for me all the time, that Jnanam, then I should learn to remove my Raga Dvesha and have reverential attitude towards everyone and everything, right? Whether it is a mosquito or whether it is a virus, whatever it is, right? Sarvam Ishwaramayam. Very, very difficult attitude to develop here, right? So Lord Krishna is gradually building up the 9th chapter, right? Where he said, Aham Yajnaha, Aham Varsha. He said he is the Surya Bhagavan who is raising the oceanic water. He said he is the rain, right? Just learn to see everything in nature as God. Because when you see nature, there is no raga and dvesha. Only when you see Manushya, people, right, then we start developing raga dvesha, right? With some people, we associate some difficult kind of situations, difficult kind of experiences we have had, and then the raga dvesha comes, right? So handling human beings without raga dvesha is the toughest thing, which requires very long training, right? So Lord Krishna wants to build up these aspects in the following chapters. 10th chapter is titled Vibhuti Yoga, in which he wants to say, anything beautiful you appreciate in the creation, remember, it is my beauty. Vibhuti means Mahatmyam, glory, right? So once you appreciate everything beautiful as Ishvara, then we get the maturity to include the other side also. So beauty alone we should not see, right? Universe is a mixture of pairs of opposites. So in the first 50 years, the body is beautiful, very useful, very wonderful. That is Ishvara. In the old age, when the body is degenerating and creating problem, right? At that time, you cannot start crying and say, please take me quickly, right? And at that time also, we should learn, we should develop that reverential attitude to treating the aging body also as Ishvara. But first you see positive things, thereafter you see the so-called negative things and accept everything in the creation, right? So you can never have a creation with just one aspect, only good things happening, right? So wisdom is matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada, right? We saw in the 2nd chapter, 14th verse, right? To develop a feeling, a sense of equanimity, right? Thus the 10th chapter is called Vibhuti Yoga, and anything glorious in the creation is Bhagavan only. So with this background, we'll enter the chapter. श्रीभगवानुवाच श्रीभगवानुवाच भूय एव महाबाहो भूय एव महाबाहो शृणु मे परमं वचः शृणु मे परमं वचः यत्तेऽहं प्रीयमाणाय यत्तेऽहं प्रीयमाणाय वक्ष्यामि हितकाम्यया वक्ष्यामि हितकाम्यया. So Bhagavan himself introduces the teaching further, right? Because learning to see the world as God is a divinization project, right? So one who sees the world itself as manifestation of God can never have a doubt whether God is existent or not, right? When God is defined as a person in the heaven, always there is a doubt whether such a world is there, whether really Vaikuntham is there, whether there is a milky ocean. Is it still, milky, or how is it? Does it exist that way even now, right? Whether there is really an Adishesha, where is the real Vishnu? How does he look? Is there really a Lakshmi there who's seated like this with so many hands, right? So we will get hundreds of questions, right? whether such a Bhagavan is there, right? Now the other issue is science is not able to go to such lokas, right? Therefore, either atheism or agnosticism is unavoidable as long as the concept of God is an extraordinary being, right? As an extraordinary being is there who is outside of the universe, right? So as long as the concept of God is an extra cosmic or extraordinary being with extraordinary features, you will permanently have this doubt. I think youngsters also have a problem here because at some time they graduate from being a child to a teenager and then they go on to college and they're exposed to various kinds of people. And so, since we do not even expose the children to this aspect, Vishwarupa aspect, what happens is they start questioning the individual and the personal God, and they have no answers to give their friends, and then slowly a disbelief in this starts setting in. I am wondering whether this is the reason, right? So always you will have this doubt if you think that God is an extraordinary person sitting there, and then you also say, okay, after death I reach Vaikuntha, right? Then the question is, have you seen, have you experienced? No. And there can be nobody who goes after death to Vaikuntha and come back and validate and tell us, yes, there's a God there, right? So you'll eternally have a doubt regarding the existence of God. Therefore, before you turn an atheist or agnostic, right, you have to get exposed to Gita and change the understanding of the God of God. God is nothing but the very manifestation of this universe. Matter principle is apara prakriti and consciousness is para prakriti. Therefore, why do I require a proof for the existence of God? If someone asks, right, have you seen God, right? The question is a counter question. How can we even miss God, right? So only when you come to Vishwarupa Ishvara, the doubts regarding the existence of God will be totally put to rest. So for a jnani, there is no doubt regarding existence of God because in his vision, nothing exists other than God. The observing consciousness principle is para prakriti, right, of God. So the observed matter principle is apara prakriti. Observer is Ishvara, observed is Ishvara. One is para, another is apara. So how can I, the jnani, doubt the existence of God, right? Doubt will go away only when we revise the concept of God. So that is why Lord Krishna is training Arjuna to see God in different light. Therefore, I have to transform your vision, Arjuna. Therefore, I am teaching you further. Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Krishna himself starts this chapter. He Mahabaho Arjuna, Bhuya Eva, once again to continue with the same topic of Ishvara, right? Why does he say once again? Because he's already talked about it in 7th chapter and then again in the 9th chapter, right? So again the following topics are Ishvara Swarupam, right? So therefore he says, Me paramam vachaha shunu. May you actually carefully listen to my words because you have got a concept of God which is extra cosmic or extraordinary being in some other loka whose existence is not scientifically proven, right, etc. Right? Now, where somebody else is sitting in another loka, obviously you don't have any proof for that, right? So especially because we say one God has 4 heads, another God has 6 heads, 8 heads, etc. Right? So if they have not understood the scriptures properly, such people can turn atheists very soon. So therefore, Lord Krishna calls this teaching Paramam Vachaha. I am talking about the real God. Yatteham Priyamanaya. Yate aham Priyamanaya. I am talking to you, Vakshyami, because you are dear to me. Priyamanaya means you're very dear to me, and not just because you're dear to me. Hitakamyaya. I'm interested in your well-being because religion with a finite God is only a beginning and we should not get stuck to that, right? Unfortunately, what happens is we start out with, Ramanavami, Krishnashtami, Ganesh Chaturthi, etc. But at some point, more than worshipping the God, right, from the heart and looking at God as God himself, we pay more attention to the ritualistic side of it, not even the ritualistic side of it. We spend more and more time and focus and energy on what we can cook on that day and eat, whether it is sweet or whatever it is. Our focus has shifted so much, right? More than worshipping the Lord himself, right? So Swamiji keeps saying that religion without scriptural study can lead to a severe problem. Either it will end up in superstition or it will be full of fear, right? It's causing fear in you. Oh, if I don't do this, this will happen, that will happen, etc. Right? So religion will really bless me only when I understand religion, which requires spiritual education program. And not hearing one talk here, one talk there, etc. Right? He actually compares, Swamiji compares it like with a set of bricks that he places one by one, and then a contractor actually builds a beautiful house out of it, right? So similarly, we need a teacher, a guru who can put this all together, the ideas in a neat fashion, and build an idea upon another idea, right? And neatly take you on this path, right? So therefore, Hitakamyaya, for your well-being, I am teaching you. Continuing. न मे विदुः सुरगणाः न मे विदुः सुरगणाः प्रभवं न महर्षयः प्रभवं न महर्षयः अहमादिर्हि देवानाम् अहमादिर्हि देवानां महर्षीणां च सर्वशः Maharshinaam cha sarvashah. Yeah. Here Lord Krishna says, it is not possible to get this knowledge regarding the real nature of God from any local source of knowledge, because we do have several branches of science. However, they are studying one corner of the universe or the other. They never get the total picture. It only gets more and more confusing. Even if they study everything in the creation, they cannot study one thing. What is that? The observer can observe everything except one thing. That is who? The observer himself. So the observer can study everything except the observer himself. So the eyes can look at everything, but eyes can't look at themselves. Therefore, the observer consciousness will be an eternal mystery. You can understand the creation in its entirety. You can study the material aspects of creation partially. The spiritual part you can never get. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, if you want to have the total vision, you have to come to me, the Lord only. Bhagavan alone has this knowledge and no other being can know. Therefore, I alone can give you this knowledge, right? You have to learn from me only. So Lord Krishna says, Name vidussuraganaha, Arjuna, me, mama prabhavam, my glory and my power. Suraganaha viduhu, even the celestials don't know. They may know more than the human beings, but their knowledge is also limited. Maharshayahana viduhu, even the great rishis don't know, right? Because ahamadirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. I am the source even before they originated. I existed even before they came. And that's why we are finding it very difficult to study the origin of the universe itself, right? People talk of, singularity, etc. And then they say, beyond singularity, it is a point of no information. So point of no information means what? I don't know, right? Therefore, if you see, it's an eternal mystery, right? And in Vedanta, we call it avidya or maya, right? And in science, they call it point of no information. Therefore, all the later beings can never know who am I, who existed even before time and space originated. If you ask the question, before time and space origination, where was Bhagavan? How can you answer that, right? So to answer to that question, you need time and space, and time and space was not there, right, at that time. Therefore, ahamadirhi devanam. I am the cause of even the devas and the maharishis. They have no way of knowing me. Therefore, I am the only source of knowledge. And if Bhagavan is not available, right, there is yet another source. What is that? The scriptures which have been given out by Bhagavan, right? Just like the manufacturer of a gadget gives you a manual, similarly, the Vedas are a wonderful manual. Through the Vedas or directly from the Lord, right, you know, right? Arjuna was lucky because in front of him, Lord Krishna himself is available. Maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Continuing. Yo mamajamanavincha, yo mamajamanavincha, veti lokamaheshwaram, veti lokamaheshwaram, asammudasamartheshu, asammudasamartheshu, sarvapapai pramuchyate, sarvapapai pramuchyate. Now, is it worth knowing who the Lord is? Is Ishvara Jnanam useful for our life or not? Because there are already so many branches of science and we can never specialize in all the branches. We have to choose a few. We study a few and we don't study many others, right? So, Ishvara Jnanam also, is it one of like the branches of sciences which is ignorable or how do we treat it, right? It is compulsory. It cannot be ignored. So Lord Krishna says, other branches of science you can leave out, but this branch of teaching is unavoidable because this alone will give you freedom from samsara. Human struggle will end only with this knowledge. Therefore, he says, Yo mam veti. Whichever human being is intelligent enough to come to spiritual knowledge, Mam Veti means Ishwaram Veti, right? How do you understand Ishvara? 3 levels of understanding, right? So, during LKG of the religion, we say Ishvara is conceived as a person. In Vaikunta, he is lying down. In Kailasha, he is there or he is in Brahmaloka. The concept of God for worship and meditation is the first level of God appreciation, which is called Ekarupa Ishvaraha. But Lord Krishna gives the warning that this is not enough. You have to study the scriptures and expand further. So from Ekarupa Ishvara to Anekarupa Ishvara, which is also Vishwarupa Ishvara. So this is the second stage. Lord Krishna will talk about this in the 12th chapter. Right? We have to practice both types of meditation, Ekarupa Dhyanam and Vishwarupa Dhyanam, which is also very, very important. Thereafter, this Aneka Rupa Ishvara, right? We should understand, is it Apara Prakriti or Para Prakriti? Aneka Rupa Ishvara is also Apara Prakriti only. Vishwarupa Ishvara is Apara Prakriti because Vishwarupam is changing, right? Continuously changing. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, Vishwarupam is not enough. Thereafter, you have to go to Para Prakriti, which is consciousness minus CAD, minus what changes? Attributes and divisions, right? So, Eka Rupam to Aneka Rupam to Arupa Ishvara. Only when you go through all these 3 stages, Ishvara Jnanam becomes complete. So, Eka Rupa, Aneka Rupa, Arupa. One who has gone through all these 3 stages, Mam Veti Purnataya. He completely understands who this Ishvara is. Ajam means who is birthless. So if Lord Krishna is God, then what will his description be, right? Can we use, if Lord Krishna is Ishvara, right? Then if Lord Krishna is God, he has got a date of birth and date of going back to Swargaloka, right? That is a preliminary Lord Krishna. The real Lord Krishna, the higher I is whom Ajam, the one who does not have Janma or Maranam, right? He is Anadincha. He doesn't have birth or death. God is the cause of everything. but God himself does not have a cause, right? So, because God is not he at all. We should not even say God himself, right? So it can be in any form, Ishvara, right? That is why we say that, in Navaratri we pray to the goddesses, so that we make sure that we are aware that God can be in any form, can be a child, can be a male, can be a female, etc. Right? Very important. Anadimcha, right? And Loka Maheshwaram, who is the Lord of the entire universe, as the Karanam, whoever knows. Asammudaha, he alone is a wise person. He is a Jnani. He is free from delusion and misunderstanding regarding God. Asammudaha samartyeshu. Not only that, sarva papaihi pramuchyate. This jnanam releases him from all the karmas. Papaihi means all the punya papa karma he will transcend. In short, he will be muktaha or free. Arjuna, therefore, you have to go through all the three stages. These chapters 9, 10, 11 are focused on the movement from Ekarupa Ishvara to Vishwarupa Ishvara. In the 13th chapter, we will be traveling from Vishwarupa Ishvara to Arupa Nirguna Brahman. So it's a very abstract concept of God that Lord Krishna wants to build up. Right? Continuing. बुद्धिर्ज्ञानमसम्मोहः बुद्धिर्ज्ञानमसम्मोहः क्षमा सत्यं दमः शमः क्षमा सत्यं दमः शमः सुखं दुःखं भवो भावः सुखं दुःखं भवो भावः भूयं चाभयमेव च भूयं चाभयमेव च अहिंसा समता तुष्टिः अहिंसा समता तुष्टिः तपोदानं यशो यशः तपोदानं यशो यशः भवन्ति भावा भूतानां भवन्ति भावा भूतानां मत्तयेव पृथग्विधाः मत्तयेव पृथग्विधाः. Now verses 4 and 5 are taken together for a reason. We'll see that. Lord Krishna is reminding Arjuna of the definition of Ishvara, which he has given in the 7th chapter as well as in the 9th chapter. That definition he reminds here also for teaching further. What is the definition? Ishvara alone is Jagat Karanam, the cause of the universe, right? When you say Ishvara is Jagat Karanam, there also we have to go through 3 levels. Very important concept here. That word we carefully use for 3 stages. There are 3 different words. In the first stage, we say Ishvara creates the world. The verb used is Ishvara creates, right? We will think Ishvara sitting somewhere. He will first bring Akasha, then he will develop Vayu out of it. It's like he's somewhere sitting doing all this, right? Now this is again a first level of understanding. So God creates the world. Then we revise this. When the person is mature, then he thinks God does not create the world. God himself manifests or becomes the universe, right? Because Apara Prakriti alone becomes all these things. So from God creates to God becomes. Therefore, everything is what? God alone. Just as God alone, just as gold alone becomes all ornaments, wood alone becomes furniture, God is available in the form of the world. This is the intermediary level. Then we go to the final level, that God does not become the world, because then what will happen? God will be subject to change. Therefore, God does not become God, but God appears as the world, right? That is the final position, which is Advaitam, right? Which is concentratedly discussed in the Upanishad, right? God appearing as the world. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna concentrates on the second level, that both internal world and external world are manifestations of para and apara only. First, he gives a list of all the internal world of thoughts, emotion, knowledge, etc. So what is this internal world consisting of thoughts? Buddhi. So buddhi means intelligence. These all come under inner world. Jnanam, right? You can understand knowledge. Asammohaha, discrimination or clarity. Shama, right? It's also a virtue, right? Comes under internal world. Forgiveness or patience. Satyam, truthfulness. Damaha, sense control. Mastery over the sense organs. Shamaha, mind control. I hope people who remember Tattva Bodha are able to connect this back to Shamadhi Shatka Sampattihi, right? Damaha, Shamaha, etc. Then Sukham, happiness. Dukkham, unhappiness. Bhavo, bhavaha, right? Their appearance or origination and their disappearance, right? Bhavo means appearance, abhavaha means the disappearance, birth and death. Bhayam is fear, abhayam is courage. Ahimsa is non-violence and samata is equanimity. Tushtihi is contentment, tapaha is austerity. Danam is charity or generosity. Yasho, yashaha, right? Yashaha, faith, and ayashaha, ill faith. This is the list of the internal world. Bhutanam bhava. All these things are conditions within the human beings. Bhava, internal conditions or states. Bhutanam, of all the living beings. They come from where? Matta eva. I am the cause of all of them. Pritagvidaha, meaning in their variety. Thus the internal world is my manifestation, right? Like that, we will also say that external world is my manifestation. Therefore, there is the confusion. Everything is my manifestation. Therefore, have reverence towards everything. This is the development that is going to come about, right? So, in a nutshell, the subjective inner world is also Bhagavan's manifestation. The objective external world is also Bhagavan's manifestation. Close your eyes, what is inside is Bhagavan. Open your eyes, what is there is Bhagavan, right? So as is well known in Mahanarayana Sutram also, this comes Antarbahishcha. So it should not be mere verbal expression. We should start feeling the divinity every moment. So Lord Krishna says the entire internal world as well as external world is born from me alone, who is a mixture of para and apara prakriti. That is why in every emotion also you have para prakriti and apara prakriti, because emotion is a thought, right? So the thought is apara prakriti and the consciousness blessing the thought is para prakriti, right? So the non-variable consciousness comes under para prakriti, right? So Adi Shankaracharya makes an observation here, right, which is an answer to a possible question that will come, right, if we think. Generally, we don't extend, so it's okay, but Shankaracharya raises this question, right? So the emotions mentioned here are buddhi, jnanam, dukkham, etc. So many people have a lot of happiness in the inside world. Many people have varieties of pain also, right? Pain keeps on running inside. Every body is a mix of pleasure and pain. So some people have more pain and some people have more pleasure. Some people have equal, right? 50-50. Now the question is, if Bhagavan is responsible for the internal world, why does Bhagavan give more pain to some people, right? And why does Bhagavan give more pleasures to some more? Why is it equal in some, right? If Bhagavan is random, at random choosing some people and giving this, today you keep some extra happiness, etc., then we would call the Bhagavan as an unfair person or why me kind of syndrome, right? If Bhagavan has partially done this, right? So, therefore, the question is why Sukha Dukkha disparity among the living beings? So Shankaracharya gives the answer. For the creation of the world, Bhagavan alone is not responsible. For the creation or manifestation of the world, right? Bhagavan is one important reason called Samanya Karanam. But there is another Vishesha Karanam, which is the individual's karma, right? It is discussed elsewhere in the Shastram, right? We have to add here the karma of the living being, right? The karma is not universal. This karma varies from individual to individual. Therefore, according to karma, which is Vishesha Karanam, and Bhagavan, so according to the law of karma, we have a Vishesha Karanam, and which is the individual's karma, and Bhagavan has a Samanya Karanam. And the internal world is designed based on both the Vishesha Karanam, the karma, and Bhagavan, the Samanya Karanam, right? Of course, in Brahma Sutra, this topic is discussed and beautiful examples are given, right? When there is a rain on the ground, in many places we see several plants, right? Before rain, there were a lot of seeds, right? Now, if rain is the Samanya Karanam, how come there are different kinds of plants born and some of them sprout and some of them don't, right? So he says rain is only Samanya Karanam. There is an invisible Vishesha Karanam which is dependent on the type of the bijam. These seeds are variable seeds called Vishesha Karanam. Rain being the Samanya Karanam, seed being the Vishesha Karanam. Together they are responsible, right? So similarly, Bhagavan is like rain, karmas are like seed. Joined together, we get varieties. So Lord Krishna uses only one expression, Bhutanam Bhava Bhavanti. Swasya Karana Anusarena. According to each person's karma and the Samanya Karanam, it varies, right? So, intelligence, knowledge, non-delusion, patience, truthfulness, whole lot of things Lord Krishna enumerates and said, in all of these, right, all these different dispositions of living beings are born out of me alone. Continuing, Maharshaya Sapta Purve, Maharshaya Sapta Purve, Chatvaro Manavastatha, Chatvaro Manavastatha, Yadbhava Manasa Jataha, Yadbhava Manasa Jataha, Esham Loka Ima Prajaha, Esham Loka Ima Prajaha. After talking about the inner world of Bhagavan's creation, I'll take up the questions later. Yeah. So, after talking about the inner world of Bhagavan's creation, now Lord Krishna is talking about the external world born out of the Lord. External world is determined by both Samanya and Vishesha Karanam, right? Samanya Karanam is Bhagavan, Vishesha Karanam is different karma. So, therefore, one is a tree, one is a plant, one is a human being, one has a healthy body, right? All the disparities are caused by Vishesha Karanam. Whatever is common, right? What is the commonality? Panchabhutas are there, right? They are the contribution of the Bhagavan. So here Lord Krishna gives a list of the external world, right? Maharshayaha Sapta. The 7 great rishis who are born as Brahmaji's Manasa Putra, right? So he is referring to that. Lord Krishna created Brahma and then actually trained Brahma to create the rest of the universe, right? So, and then he went back to relax, right? So, therefore, he only created Brahma and Brahma became responsible for the creation, right? So, the 7 great rishis are enumerated in the Puranas, right? And the Manasa Putra of Brahma are the Saptarishayaha. So, you can easily remember the 7 rishis because even in Sandhya Vandanam it comes, right? So it is Atri, Bhru, Bharadwaja, Vashishta, Gautama, Kashyapa, Angirasa, right? So there is a slight variation in the names depending on the shaka of the Yajurveda, but these are the Sapta Rishayaha, right? And Purve Chatvaro Manavastatha, right? Even before the Sapta Rishis previously, 4 rishis had come out of Brahmaji Sankalpa Matrena. They are called Manasa Putra. Who are they? Sanakadi rishis, right? Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana and Sanat Kumara, right? Purve Chatvaro Rishayaha, right? So Manavastata, the 14 Manus who preside over the Manvantaras. Now each Manvantara, we saw this even in one of the earlier sessions, each Manvantara has a duration of 72 Chaturyugas. And one Chaturyuga has got a duration of 864 crore years. So like that 72 Chaturyugas, one Manu will preside over. Then the Manvantara Pralaya will come. That Manu will be replaced by another. After the 14 Manvantaras are over, Brahmaji's daytime ends, right? And then Brahmaji goes to sleep. So these 14 Manus are enumerated in the Puranas, and in fact in the Avanyavata Sankalpa Mantram also they are enumerated, right? So in the current day of Brahma, 6 Manus have already come and gone. We are in the 7th Manvantara. That's why we say what? Saptame Vaivasvata Manvantare. If you remember our Sankalpa Shlokas, we say Saptame Vaivasvata Manvantare. The Manu presiding over our time is called the Vaivasvata Manu. This current Manu has got how many Chaturyugas? 72. Of the 72 Chaturyugas, how many are gone? Ashtavimshati Tame Kali Yuge. 28th Chaturyuga is going on now. When it reaches 72, right, then this will be over. Therefore, Manavaha, the 14 Manus are created by the Bhagavan, right? Madbhava Manasa Jataha. They are created out of Bhagavan's Sankalpa, not by the traditional method. All of them are Madbhava. They are all soaked in Bhagavan's Bhakti. From the 14 Manus alone, the entire creation came. Esham imaha prajaha. Right? In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, first chapter, 4th section, right? Purusha Vida Brahmanam it is called. Right? Some of these details are given. Manu and Manu's wife is called Shatarupa. Even though she is Shatarupa, right? From her actually innumerable number of species were born. Right? That is why she is named Shatarupa. But all types of children were born. Monkeys, donkeys, any species, multiple species were born from Manu and Shatarupa, right? So, according to Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 1.4, Yesham Loka Ima Prajaha, they all appear in the world. Continuing, Etam Vibhutim Yogam Cha, Etam Vibhutim Yogam Cha, Mama Yo Vitti Tattvatah, Mama Yo Vitti Tattvatah, Sovikampena Yogena, Sovikampena Yogena, Yujyate Natra Samshayah, Yujyate Natra Samshayah. So since Bhagavan alone is manifesting as both the inner and outer world, the entire creation is called Bhagavan's Vibhuti, right? Vibhuti means Vishesha Bhavanam, specific manifestation of the Lord. Because before the manifestation, these varieties were not there. Only after manifestation, we have this variety. Now we speak about the stem cell in the fetus, and we say that from the stem cell, any part of the body can be developed, right? So similarly, from a small Karana Prapancha, a seed-like subtlest thing, the entire manifestation has come about, right? So, Vishesha Rupena Bhavanam, right? So, just as the stem cell is capable of producing all the parts, Similarly, one apara prakriti Ishvara is now appearing as all the varieties. Not only the present one, but newer and newer discoveries also are there already in the potential form, right? So all these possibilities are called Visheshana Bhutihi Bhavanam, manifestation, right? Therefore, Lord Krishna says every bhakta must gradually start appreciating Bhagavan's Vibhuti. Etam Vibhutim, the manifestation of the Bhagavan, which is called Vishwarupam and Yogam cha. Yoga means the potential or power for manifestation, the potential which is invisible, right? So Yogam is unmanifest, Vibhuti is always manifest glories, right? So the capacity for singing is called Yogaha. When the person sings and you hear, it is called Vibhuti, right? So Yoga is Anumana Pramana Gamyam. That means it is inferential. Vibhuti is Pratyaksha Pramana Gamyam. That means you can actually sense it with your sense organ, right? Vibhuti, the glories of the Lord. So, Bhagavan has got both yoga and vibhuti. Therefore, Mama, Lord Krishna says, these two of mine, yo veti tattvataha, right? Who starts understanding both of these, right? So, in the second level of devotion, in the first level of devotion, Bhagavan is Ekarupa, right? In a special form. This is in the second level where God is manifesting as the Jagrat Prapancha, right? So we have to change our mind. Sarvam Vishnumayam Jagat. And not only that, it doesn't matter if it is Sarvam Shivamayam Jagat. We should not get too attached to, a Shiva or a Vishnu or any of this, right? It is not right. So learn to see God in every person, right? In Bhagavatam, there are a few shlokas which talk about the levels of bhakti, right? So it says if a person has devotion towards the deity in the temple, and if he comes out and entreats the people, right, then that is not true devotion at all. And such a bhakti is tamasic bhakti, right? So that bhakti will not take you far. So Lord Krishna says, yo tattvataha veti. He uses the word tattvataha to indicate that the other cosmic God who is described as residing in some other place, that is not tattvataha Ishvaraha. The Vishwarupa Ishvara alone is the real one, right? So for the time being, therefore, tattvataha veti. That Vishwarupa Bhakta will gradually go on to the next stage. So what is the next stage? From Ekarupam to Anekarupam to Arupa or Paraprakriti. Thus, Paraprakriti Jnanam is the final stage, and Lord Krishna says, Saha tat Vishwarupa Bhakta Yujyate. He'll certainly be blessed with Adikampena Yogena, unshaken knowledge of the Paraprakriti, right? So appreciating the Paraprakriti, the Vishwarupa, he will come to the realization, recognition of Paraprakriti, which is called Avikampena Yogaha. So here the word Yogaha means Paraprakriti Jnanam, right? So he will come to that, and then liberation is possible only after he comes to Paraprakriti Jnanam. Continuing. Aham sarvasya prabhavah. Aham sarvasya prabhavah. Mattas sarvam pravartate. Mattas sarvam pravartate. Iti matva bhajante ma. Iti matva bhajante ma. Buddha bhava samanditaah. Buddha bhava samanditaah. So what is the lifestyle of a Vishwarupa Bhakta, and what kind of inner transformation takes place in the mind of such a Bhakta? A very important message he gives here, right? From which we can understand whether we have come to that level or not. This is the litmus test shloka, right? What is their attitude? Every experience in our life is coming from the world, consisting of what? Human beings, things and situations. So all experiences come from this world of variety of things, inert, and a variety of beings, conscious beings, and varieties of situations, right? So only in Jagrata Avastha you experience this kind of world, but even in Swapna Avastha you continue your experience to a different kind of world, right? So all these give varieties of experiences, and as even they enter our psyche, our mind, we react differently. Raga, Tvesha, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha. The mind becomes turbulent, stressed out, tension ridden, etc. This is a typical human mind, right? Whereas Vishwarupa Bhakta feels that all these different experiences are coming from things, beings, and situations, right? But in his vision, all of them are what? They are all Vishwarupa, right? So he treats them as Ishvara or Vishwarupa, right? And even in Vishnu Sahasranamam, there is this particular shloka in the beginning itself, Bhupado Yasyanabir Viyada Suranilash Chandra Suryochanetre. The whole universe consisting of good, bad, ugly, anything, whether I like or not, is Vishwarupa Ishvara. Therefore, the world does not give me experience, right? God gives me these experiences. World does not give me anything experience, any of these experiences, but this God who is fair, right, is giving me these experiences as per the Samanya Karanam and the Vishesha Karanam, which is the karma, right? So according to law of karma given by Bhagavan, I accept everything as prasadam. I should receive the prasadam without judgment and without complaint, right? Thereafter, one can try to improve the situation. That is a different thing. But the awareness is there for Vishwarupa Bhakta at all times. Basically, you will see that he will not have violent reactions to situation, right? So it happens. So therefore, the advantage is Sukha Dukkhe Same Kritva Labha Labho Jaya Jayo, right? So in the second chapter, we saw that a Karma Yogi can be an effective Karma Yogi only when he becomes a Vishwarupa Bhakta. So Karma Yoga and Vishwarupa Bhakti are complementary, and therefore such a person can be involved in Sukha Dukkhe Same Kritva, right? So very important shloka here. The first line is the thinking of the Vishwarupa Bhakta, the mindset of a Vishwarupa Bhakta. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavaha. So Lord Krishna uses the word Aham, referring to himself as Bhagavan. So Ishvara is the source of not only the entire creation, but Ishvara is the source of all pleasurable and painful experiences in life also. Mattaha Sarvam Pravartate. So Bhagavan alone, right, make sure that these experiences come, whether it's a particular neighbor or a person in the family or whatever it is, however painful the experience is, right? We just accept it as Ishvara Prasadam. And the person does not, basically the experience comes due to both Samanya Karanam and Vishesha Karanam, and it can come in the form of a person or an object, right? It can be in any form. So according to Vishesha Karanam and Samanya Karanam, so you can't ask, why is my husband like this? Why is my wife like this? Why is my child like this, right? It's a combination of these two Karanams which lead to circumstances, situations and relationships in the home front like this, right? So, but submitting to this is not fatalism. We can continue to do what we can, because we are also one of the contributors, but we are not the controllers. We are contributors as part of the total Vishwarupa. Therefore, Mattaha Sarvam Pravartate iti Matva. This awareness is there for a Vishwarupa Bhakta from morning till night, like the Tambura Shruti, right? Iti Matva Bhajante Mam. With this thought, they worship me, they seek me, right? Artha Bhakta, Artharthi Bhakta or Jignasu Bhakta. By the time they come to Vishwarupa Bhakti, they are interested in moksha only. And that Bhakti becomes thereafter Nishkama Bhakti as described in the 9th chapter, right? So, a Sakama Bhakta chooses finite worldly goals, a Nishkama Bhakta chooses intelligent, godly goals, right? So, they have Nitya Vastu Vivekaha, which we saw in Tattva Bodha, right? So, therefore, Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti also one should Remember, Buddha Bhava Samanditaha. Right? Here it is Bhakti. Bhava means Bhakti with total devotion. They worship me. We'll stop here. I'll take the 9th verse in the next class. पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. I think there are a few questions, so let me just. In verse 3, Lord telling that one who knows his true nature gets released from, in verse 4, okay. In chapter 18, 16th word, Lord also says that one should surrender to get relief from sins. Does it mean two paths of surrender and vichara, right? Actually, this I've been repeatedly saying. See, what happens is, it depends on the maturity level of the bhakta. When you are in Ekarupa Ishvara format, surrendering to the Lord is the most important aspect. When you progress on your spiritual journey, right, then you understand the true nature, which is the Paraprakriti, and then you raise up. So if you see, here it is talking about Vishwarupa Ishvara, that is Aneka Rupa Ishvara, and in chapter 18, 16 verse, if I remember right, it is referring to Eka Rupa Ishvara, where it's talking about the surrendering to the personal God, which will help the person progress from bhakti, right, at the lowest level, Eka Rupa to Vishwarupa to Arupa Ishvara Bhakti, right? So it is a gradual journey. So it is not that there are two paths of surrender. Repeatedly, that's what I say. Everybody has to come to Jnana Yoga to attain moksha, right? We saw in detail in chapter 8 how Kramamukti leads to moksha also, right? But it is a very convoluted path. That was verse 64, correct, of chapter 18. That's why I was wondering. Okay. So, the other question here, at times some situations are so toxic that no reaction is seen as weakness. So one has to react maybe violently. How do we explain that? Yeah. What Shastra says is, when there are situations, one need not be without responding. What the Shastra says is, and even Tattvabodha talks about it and Gita talks about it, is, can we get to a situation where we can have the mind and the sense organs in our control, which is Damaha and Shamaha, and even if we are responding and we're taking a harsh, decision and communicating, can we communicate that without reacting violently, but responding sternly and firmly? So that is the path of a Karma Yogi. And it's not that jnanis don't take difficult decisions. They do take difficult decisions. And they are able to move on because they don't react violently, but they respond to situations. I hope I've answered this question, Nilanjana. And Bhaskar also. Are there any other hands raised? I think there are no other hands raised. There were just these two questions. Yeah. Good. So this is actually a very beautiful chapter, the 10th chapter. We can even ask children to get by heart because it talks about all the best things in the world, and then Lord Krishna says, I am this, I am that, I am the best Veda, I am this Veda, I am this God amongst the gods, amongst the celestial. So all the best things, right? I am the Vasanta Ritu, etc. Right? So we'll see more of it. A very, very nice chapter, and I'm so happy and thankful to my parents and my school which actually made me learn this chapter maybe at age 10 or 11. So this is the next week's schedule, and we will catch up next week at 8:25 same time. Thank you. Hari Om. Oh, there's a question from Mohana. Go ahead, Mohana.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to tell you something that
Yeah.
you talked today about the mosquitoes also, or his manifestation, right? Today,
Correct.
you mentioned. So I just want to tell you, my husband, when he lived, he really felt when a mosquito bit him. I have seen it with my eyes. He said they were children of God and their guna was to bite. So let them do their duty. And
Wow.
when my plants used to be eaten by the rabbits and the chipmunks, he said they are children of God, let them eat it. But I used to say I am doing all the gardening, you know. So I just wanted to tell you this. He
Sure.
lived his life like that. He never harmed in thought, word, or deed. That's
Yeah.
what.
I've also observed Swamiji, he never uses a bat to kill the mosquitoes.
Yeah.
He tries to use mosquito nets. I tried following that in the house. We have gone back to mosquito nets. We can try to some extent, but I don't know whether it's fully feasible. And there is a particular papam if you have to do it, and
Yeah.
that's actually called Suna. And there is Prayashchitam even for that.
Oh,
Anyway, thank you so much for
thank you.
sharing. Yeah, thank you. So we'll meet next week then.
Okay.